Good evening. Welcome to Leary City Council meeting for Monday, October 2nd, 2023. At this time, we'll take a moment of reflective silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Schneider, would you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Schneider. I'd ask the audience please to put your phones on silent or off during the council meeting, be greatly appreciated. Mr. Clerk, have roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Callahan,
Here.
Mr. Sierra,
Here.
Mr. Oswald,
Here.
Mr. Corbin,
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell. Here. Mr. Tolet. Here. Mr. Lippian. Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
We have one absent, Mr. Lippian has excuse.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Becerra,
Second.
second by Mr. Snyder. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're still having technical difficulties. We are working through that process, so please bear with us until we get through this issue. Public hearings,
There are none.
can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Becerra. Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Good evening. Oh, Jesus, thing is hot. Jesus. So Tim, one of Tim's expertise is audio installation. So Tim, if you could maybe adjust the sound so that we don't have as much issue. But good evening, city council members. Good evening, residents. I just have a couple updates to share. One is October 14th will be our community shred day. So for our residents out there who may have papers that they want to safely dispose of, you can come to City Hall parking lot between 9 and noon. Just make sure you have some way to identify yourself and you can shred your papers. We ask you to take any staples out or any paper or big clips out. Another thing I see is out there often I get asked is when is trick or treat? Trick or treat is going to be on Tuesday, October 31st on Halloween day from 6 to 8. If you are participating, turn on your light, your porch light, or if you're like me, set up in your driveway to signify that you're participating. And we are closed on, City Hall is closed on October 9th due to Columbus Day. However, trash pickup will be on its regular schedule. So most of these updates are sent in our newsletter, so be sure to sign up for the newsletter as well, but here to answer any questions as well.
Any questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lundy.
Thank you, Mr. President. The work never stops for our dedicated team. Crews from streets and parks continue to do regular thorough sweeps of the square and downtown area. They continue to head out once a week, bright and early in the morning, so that we can best blow leaves and debris to the street, clean it up from there without having to compete with parked cars and lots of traffic in the downtown area. We will be meeting this week for a fall preparation and strategy session. We'll be planning for the soon arrival of the leaf pickup season, almost here. We want to make sure our trucks and trailers are operational and ready to go. In addition, we'll start talking through plans for when the snow actually starts to fall in November. However, I guess Ohio's had some early snowfalls in October in the past. And of course, we're looking at the winter forecast, focusing this year on the impact of El Nino winter, which would mean we would have a warmer and drier winter. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. We all share the common goal of wanting our downtown to look its very best. Well, glad to report the work is underway to remove graffiti from the railroad underpasses. Once the railroad gave us the green light to cover over the graffiti, we put the wheels in motion. Our vendor, True Coat, has been prepping the walls and has begun painting, sealing the walls so that any future graffiti can be removed. We're starting with Washington and Bridge Streets, also the bridges on Washington and on Broad Street near the hospital will be painted for the first time in over 16 years for a refresher look. And as more businesses are investing in our downtown, we always want to make sure that we do our part to always put our best foot forward to showcase our downtown. That completes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Lundy? Thank you, Mr. Lundy. Someone say something?
Hey, Mr. President. So Mr. Rob Gary's texting us. I would just say back up from the microphone for now. He doesn't want anybody messing with it because it's pieces and parts that they found in their basements and stuff. Yeah, so back up. Thank you.
This is kind of like Back to the Future when he goes to the speaker and everything blows off from the speaker. Okay, Finance Director Pulaski? No report, Mr. President. Law Director Deary? We're still working through things. Yeah. Okay.
Two, 1, 2. It's really good. I think you got to sync this, which you pull up.
Thank you. Just briefly, with respect to the shooting that took place on Thursday, we're now not at liberty to obviously discuss the details. I can't tell you that I have been in contact with Councilman Lippian in addition to Chief Polko. And in addition to speaking with them immediately after it took place, we had a meeting earlier today. Obviously, information and fact gathering is an inherent part of what my office does. And I'll let you know that we do have a multifaceted plan in place. Again, well, I don't think it's appropriate to discuss things on record. I'll let you know that we are we're monitoring things closely, and there will be more further reporting.
Any questions for the Law Director Deary? Thank you. The Police Department, Chief Pelko. Any questions for the chief? Chief. Their Fire Department, Chief Pernesti. Any questions for Chief Pernesti? Assistant Safety Service Director, Ms. Calvert.
Gonna give this a whirl. Hopefully I'm back far enough away. Good evening. First off, I wanted to let you know that I have the honor of presenting at the Ohio Economic Development Association with regards to our downtown project here. So I was asked to be a part of that, to talk about the capital stack, the subsidies, and in particular, the importance of the brownfield funding that project got. So it was really exciting to be able to present such a huge project for the city, and it is a testament to the work that city council, the mayor, finance department, law department, everyone has put into that project for it to be a success, enough so that it was actually highlighted at this annual conference of Ohio Economic Developers. So thank you for that. I also wanted to let everybody know that on Thursday, October 5th, our own Ridge Tool will be kicking off Manufacturing Month. So that is the presentation. Manufacturing Month is state of Ohio. We honor and celebrate manufacturing, bring awareness to it throughout the month of October. So Lorraine County hosts a variety of events throughout the month. And it kicks off on Thursday at Ridge Tool. Registration opens at 7:30 a.m. The kickoff for the program is at 8 a.m. and there will be tours following. So if you're able, we would love to see you there. And lastly, I wanted to provide an update on the Spruce Up Elyria program. I know there's been some questions and requests for data recently. So in total, 145 applications were received. 50 projects were completed and paid for. There are another 40 projects under contract. So in total, we have about $420,000 in funds under contracts. There are a few applications that are yet to be approved and okay to proceed. So, but we do have more projects than what we can fund with the current allocation. So that project has been a huge success. The Community Development Department is working on pulling together a more complete report. And you should be on the lookout for that within the next few weeks. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
So Ms. Keller, so the 40 that are still under contract, but nothing's been moved forward, are those expected to be completed this year or?
Yes, those are expected to be completed this year.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President. So when I called Ms. Scott about this program that you just give all the information on, I thought that it was going great. And she says, you know what, we got rid of all the money, but this is a pilot program. And when I talked to Brenda, she was curious because a lot of people, not a lot, but there was a certain amount of people that got denied. And so Ms. Scott was explaining, this is one of the problems maybe they didn't get back in time. And so they're learning from this pilot program and they're going to make it better. Okay, so they're going to have a meeting of the minds, but I guess finding out where we can get our funding and the little glitches that you wouldn't have even believed where a person filled out all the information that was renting the home, unbeknownst to the guy that owned the home that she was renting to. And so that was it, right? And I guess that went to the courts with an issue. So they would have never figured something like this would go on. So they've learned a lot. The program is running good. So I'm just hoping that council, when we come to the table to grab some more money for this program, we're all aboard to make this thing a go, to really spruce up Elyria, make it a great program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Any other questions for Ms. Calvert? Very good. I see that Assistant Safety Service Director Williams is out about doing audio. So we thank you for helping us out here. City Engineer, Ms. McKillips.
I just want to do a really quick update on these projects. Our big projects are moving along, our sewer project, Broad Creek, Cleveland Street. I do want to mention on Cleveland Street, I did have a incorrect date on my last ESRS in the loop email. The road project as a whole is scheduled to be completed in November of 2024. That's next year. This November, the work that they're currently doing right now, we're looking at that being buttoned up for the winter next month. So the work will take a break during the winter months. And the project, again, as I said, we're looking at a completion date of a year from now. These current projects that are going on, West Avenue resurfacing. Last week, the pavement was milled. Tomorrow, they plan on doing full depth repairs and asphalt paving Wednesday and Thursday, as long as the weather holds out. So by the end of this week, we'll have pavement and then contractor come back within the next few weeks and adjust any manhole castings that need to. But that is going take place this week. Also this week, we have the Abbey Road South resurfacing at the south end of Abbey Road. Milling will start tomorrow. Full depth repairs are scheduled for Wednesday, and then paving Thursday and Friday again if weather permits. So hopefully by the end of this week, that section of Abbey Road will also be pretty much buttoned up. Chestnut Ridge resurfacing. This is the section of Chestnut Ridge from 57 to Stillwater Drive. This work is going to be taking place at night, and we're looking at the work to begin next week. It'll depend on the final decision of the contractor. Right now, he's thinking he may be starting next Monday. If he decides to try to do all the paving work in one night, then they're gonna push that till maybe Thursday, Friday, and then do a paving Friday, Saturday type issue. So we'll get more information hopefully by the end of this week on when that's actually gonna be taking place. And then, street sweeping, round 2 of street sweeping for 2023 started today. So the second round usually goes a lot faster than the first round because the first round is the one that picks up all the debris from over the winter. But keep an eye out for those pink signs, the no parking signs in your neighborhood. And check out the dates, and we're gonna try to keep the contractor on their toes with making sure that the signs stay up. We've had issues with the signs blowing down during storms, or just people just ripping them down, so. We'll try to have them, do more frequent checks on postings. Engineering office, one of the things that we do is take complaints. And our projects, let's just say that, when people call our office, it's usually not to say, hi, thanks for, making me late for work or, where the case is. But, the folks on Dilworth Street, they have been inconvenienced for almost a year now. This project started, October of last year, and the work started there on Dilworth. And if anyone has any, reason to complain, those folks on Dilworth definitely do. But we did receive a letter from one of the property owners on Dilworth. And he writes, I would like to commend the city of Elyria project inspector Pat Beckwith and Fabrizi foreman Jeff Lynn and the Fabrizi work crew of phase 5 of the East Side Relief Sewer project for their diligent work. They have all been friendly, professional, and responsive to the concerns of the residents. They have gone out of their way to make sure residents had access to their driveways for doctor's appointments, trips to the grocery store, etc. The truck drivers have even helped carry groceries to my home when access to my driveway was restricted. I would also like to mention, with all the movement of equipment and materials, that the contractor maintained a neat work site without construction trash blowing into residential yards. So Fabrizi workers have made sure that the city of Elyria trash collection trucks have been able to access the streets to collect residential trash, or they have wheeled the trash containers to the city truck and returned them to the residents. The public doesn't always have a kind thing to say when construction begins in their area. I, for one, appreciate the fact that infrastructure monies are being spent in the city of Elyria and more specifically, my neighborhood. Please share my comments with the project inspector and the contractor at the next project. That was from Mr. Todd on Dilworth. And one of the things that I do put in the loop emails is that we are so appreciative and so thankful for the patience and grace that our residents provide us when we're doing these big projects. And it's difficult to conceive, to understand what they're going through when you haven't actually been through it yourself. So I'm, again, just thank all the residents that are being patient, very understanding, and, this too shall pass at some point in time. That's all I have.
Ms. Davis.
Through you, Chair. I observed today, when the street cleaner was going by on the south side of town, how many cars was parked along the street? And then they had the audacity to park in front of the sign when it's, before the street cleaner came there. And I knew they knew the sign. I saw, then you're gonna park your car, lock it, and then the whole street barely got cleaned. I think we need to do something about this. They have ample time to not park there. With the, they tell you when they're coming. So just a whole street not get, they just kept going around cars, just because you didn't think enough of your city to move your car out into the driveway. So what we gonna do?
Through you, Council President, to Councilwoman Davis, that's something we can look into and see what options we have. What comes to mind is what we do during the 5K race, when there's cars along Washington, we pick them up and we move them out the way. And so, that's something, we'll explore what, we'll talk with law, we'll talk with EPD, see what we can do to try to clear the path for folks.
Mr. Gillette.
For you, I said it before and I'll say it again. You have some outstanding employees in the engineering department that make all of us look better. And we are truly blessed. And so, it's horrific with all the streets torn up. Having them torn up is a good thing. That means we're doing projects to make them better. But people in the anger that permeates in our society today, your employees have truly shined, and you need to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. President. So please don't hit me when I get near you, because Ms. McKellips, every time I go into her office, I can barely see her because she's got so many piles of paperwork in front of her. So I know she's very bogged down. And I know the Spring Valley residents have been very patiently waiting when something may start, so they have some hope where they could dry up the water in their area. Do we foresee a time frame that we may be able to start bringing this to council? I know we got a lot of projects, and that's a huge project, but can we see maybe something in the future that we may look at something next year?
What I would like to do for you, Mr. President, is look at the second half of next year, moving forward with some type of design package and trying to prioritize the streets further than what we already have.
And through to Mr. President, I appreciate that, because I know they've been pretty patient about it, and you see the residents come in and it's very upsetting, every year the same old. So at least there's some hope, and I appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. How are we doing with the residential, repaving? Is that done?
The asphalt paving is complete. The concrete repairs are just getting started, so that's in progress. Depending on when the weather turns, we may end up pushing some of that concrete repairs into next spring. If it stays warm and we have that El Nino, or we may be able to actually knock that new contract out this year. And then we have our OPWC projects, which, West Ave is one of those. Abby, Chestnut, and then we also have Foster, and Lake. There's section of Lake, so there's two
Mr.
more.
President, Mr. President, through you, are we gonna get to any of the alternate streets this year?
Some of the alternates have been completed. There are, I believe, and I don't know off the top of my head which ones, but I believe there's like one or two that. Well, they're asphalt streets, so they're, we've already went through our asphalt contract, so it'll be on the list for next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. McKillop? Thank you, Ms. McKillop. That's everybody. Mr. Williams, did you have another report? You were out doing some audio. Did you have a report? No, you're good. Are you? Okay, you're good. All right. Thank you very much. President's referrals and remonstrances, item number 1, community development. Item number 2, community development planning commission. Item number 3, community development finance. Item number 4, finance. Item number 5, finance. Item number 6, finance. Item number 7, finance. Item number 8, financing utilities. Item number 9, financing utilities. Item number 10, financing utilities. Item number 11, utilities. Item 12, received and placed on file in the clerk's office. Question this week. Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
We have one, Mr. Lippian. Recently, we had an issue on Cornell Avenue, second of similar incidents at the same address. This smacks of recent incidents on Harvard Avenue as well. We've seen drug busting in the houses in Eastern Heights and endured shocking criminal behavior in the area of Elyria. We had theretofore considered change. We feel in the Heights acting acutely, probably because of our neck of the neighborhood had been fairly tranquil until recently. The chilling sounds of gunshots echoing in the very streets where our children play is a grim testament to the urgency of the matter at hand. We cannot and will not bury our heads in the sand while our communities are in peril. Every bullet fired robs us of a piece of our shared humanity. Every life lost is a piercing reminder that there is no room for complacency. If violence is the storm, then the narcotics are the dark clouds feeding it. Illegal drugs are not always innocent substances. They can be callous for chaos, coverings of destruction that leave our neighborhoods fractured and our families torn apart. Can we really stand by while the very soul of our community is poisoned? Our children, the future of this fair city, should sleep soundly in their beds, free from the nightmares of gunfire and the dread of tomorrow. It's not just a dream, it's a fundamental interest of the families who call Elyria home. And we, in this hollow hall, are duty bound to protect it. Lorraine has 115 officers and Elyria about 79. Let that number sink in. Lorraine has a police impact team, Elyria does not. We used to have neighborhood impact unit, but we no longer do. Let that sink in. To fortify our police force is not just an administrative act, it's a clarion call to arms. We must ensure that every officer is equipped with skills, training capabilities, and unwavering resolve to face the challenges ahead. Remember, we are not merely adding numbers, we are marshaling the protectors of our shared values and ideals. Let us be clear, this is not just a mission for our police force, it is a mission for all of us. We must stand shoulder to shoulder with an unyielding resolve to cast out our shadows of crime and illegal drugs from our midst. Colleagues, citizens, the clock is ticking, and destiny is watching. Shall we be remembered as the ones who faltered in the face of adversity, or shall we rise with unyielding spirit and unbreakable determination to reclaim our streets, our homes, and our future? For our children, for our community, for our future, let's act. Let our combined resolve echo for future generations. Let it be said that the night is the darkest, we brought forth the dawn. And we'll put a copy of all the council members.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pallardy wanted to speak this evening. He's here in the audience. He got held up and didn't have a chance to sign up. I would ask this council to let him make the remarks.
Sure. Mr. Pallardy.
Not held up.
Sure. No, I understand. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jason Pallardy, 312 Harvard. I'm surprised more people weren't here mad at what's going on in the city. with the crime, the violence, the drug dealing, the shootings, everything else. The place should be packed. I put some of that on the citizens for not having the, to stand up and let their voices be heard. I mean, if enough of us showed up, it's like the, everyone, especially those of you with kids, the movie Ants, where there's all the ants and you have the grasshoppers and there's just a couple hundred grasshoppers, millions of ants, right? Why do we only have a dozen ants standing up, saying anything, trying to do something, while we let the grasshoppers rule all over us? I'll pin that part on council and the city and the mayor and some of it on the police departments. Because I know your guys' hands are tied to a certain degree. You guys are kind of the grasshoppers in a way, because you guys let it go. I was hoping that I would hear somebody get pissed tonight about this. To really get angry and pound their fist and say enough is enough. What are we doing here in the city? Are we doing anything? And I know people are gonna say, oh, well, there's a process. Well, there's a meeting. Well, you know, we have certain things that we have to try to figure out first. Has it worked yet? I mean, you guys, I'm not, but has it worked? Can anybody sit here and say, hey, the process has worked so far? While we continue to have delinquent homeowners who are renting to these people, who are just renting to anybody, and I get it, you have bills to pay, you have a house, you can't sell it because the marketplace sucks, but so you rent to somebody who supposedly has the money. And then, you know, they go delinquent after a few months, but here to find out they've been selling drugs. And I'm sure with the police department, you guys know where the drug houses are in the city, right? I mean, you know where a good number of them are. But too many times we hear, oh yeah, you know, we know that, but we're trying to investigate it so we can get the big guy. But in the process of trying to get the big guy, the small guy is infecting the entire neighborhood. And then you have the entire neighborhood who's afraid to stand up and do anything. I know myself, my wife has yelled at me in the evening when I've gone outside to be like, guys, knock it off. No more, you know, no more. You're setting fireworks off in the middle of the street, waking up the whole neighborhood at 11:30 at night. But dispatch says, oh, we'll get to it. How many times have we heard that, right? I think I've said that up here in front of everybody. When have we, you know, we'll get to it. But here to find out that same house is a known drug house with 20 cars coming in and out throughout the day, but no one's doing anything about it. So one day, I don't know how many cruisers it was. It was 7 or 8 cruisers rolled down Harvard. This was a couple months ago. And 2 of them parked on Park, 5 of them went down Harvard. And my neighbor went out and asked the one, hey, well, what in the world's going on? Do we need to be concerned? He goes, oh, it's just a disturbance. Really? 7 cruisers flying down the street? Oh, it's just a disturbance. Well, it happened to be that drug house who was having an interaction with the neighbor, telling the neighbor that he's going to get his boys from Cleveland to come in and take care of it like they did earlier in the year. Huh? What house was that at, right? Does anyone remember the drive-by shootings on Harvard Avenue? 2 of them? I mean, guys, what are we doing? It's time, every single one of you should be standing on the front porches in your neighborhoods with signs that say enough. No more drug dealers, no more speeding, no more shootings, no more of this crap. It's over with. Take a stand for it. Don't let it happen. Let it be known. If you have to do it every single week, pick out a new house, do it. Stand up for something. So instead of praising everybody, oh, you did a great job with this. Yeah, you know, we hear that all the time. We're all on social media. We see all the positive, we see everyone wants to be praised. But maybe we need to kind of suck it up and look in the mirror and face some really hard truths about the direction the city's going. Ms. Davis, your comment about the and I applaud you for this. Your comment about the cars being parked on the street with the pink signs, you know, street sweeping, those signs go up several days in advance, and you say, what can you do? The problem is we've never done anything about it. Remember years ago, Mayor Michael White in Cleveland, when he was faced with all the problems in the city, right? He's like, you know, the problem is we've known we've had a problem for a long time. The problem is we failed to do anything about it. Everyone in the city has failed to do anything about it. Let's just wait for the procedure. Oh, we're waiting to get the other guy. You know what?
Mr. Paladin, your minutes, time's up. If someone want to make,
I'm done.
that's okay. No, we appreciate you coming up over and through there. If somebody wants to, if you have more to say, somebody needs to make a motion for continuation of minutes for Mr. Paladin to have this continue to have the floor.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tolet, second by Ms. Davis. Continue on, Mr.
Thank
Paladin.
you. So to your point, something should be done about it. And then that something should be done about it. Oh, we should look into it to see what we can do. Maybe there's something we can do about it. Maybe we can slap a sticker on their window like we do the garbage cans. You know, we put stickers on the garbage cans, but yet the same garbage cans are out week after week for 5 days after garbage pickup. I'm sure there's some sort of ordinance in the area, right? Something. If not, tow it. Send a message. If you were to tow all the cars on one street on street sweeping day, you think people would kind of figure it out? Like, crap, man, they towed my car. Shoots. Man, they tagged in a garbage can and got $100 fine. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, you know, I mean, plain and simple. So I challenge all the citizens, we need to stand up more. Once again, enough is enough. I love that you're running for council. I like Mr. Lippian a lot. I wish you were running for. Yes, that is where you would be ideal at, because you and Lippian have the exact same ideas, maybe different ways of going about it. But man, talking to one of your messages or things on Facebook or whatever about building a team. You got some go-doers, but then it starts with a team. So anyways,
Okay.
I challenge the citizens, stand up, put your foot down, speak out, do whatever it is you have to do. Send a message to everybody here, everybody there, everybody out there. Enough is enough. This is our neighborhood. This is our city. No more drug dealers, no more pushers, no more shootings, none of that stuff. Move on. Go to the next city. It's time to take Elyria back, because if we don't, you're just a couple years from losing the writings on the wall. You're going to start losing tons and tons of residents. And when that happens, your tax base starts to fall. And what happens when your tax base falls? You got nothing.
Thank you, Mr.
So anyways,
Paladin.
thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tolet. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's all the petitions from the council members.
Reports of standing and special committees.
There are none.
Resolutions first reading.
There are none.
Resolutions second reading. Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Community Development. An ordinance accepting the dedication of certain lands, easements, and rights of way for the installation of streets and utilities as provided for the final plat of River Run Landing subdivision phase 3.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-132. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an enterprise zone agreement with the NBN Power Packaging LLC for exemption of real and personal property taxes within the Elyria Enterprise Zone, created under ordinance number 91-71 as amended in ordinance number 95-47.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
second by Mr. Strayer. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-133. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2023-34, known as the 2023 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules. Second.
second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-134. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into insurance contracts with travelers through the Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services LLC with the city of Illyria's general liability, property, crime, auto liability, and physical damage, law enforcement liability, public entity management liability, employee practice liability, umbrella excess liability insurance.
Mr. Tolet,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
second by Mr. Snyder. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-135. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an insurance contract with the underwriters at Lloyd's of London, CFC Syndicate through the Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services LLC for the city of Illyria's cyber liability insurance.
Mr. Tolet,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
second by Mr. Snyder. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-136. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an insurance contract with Excel American Insurance through Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services LLC for the city of Illyria's equipment breakdown insurance.
Mr. Tolet,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-137. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an insurance contract with the Navigators Specialty Insurance Company through Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services LLC for the city of Illyria's pollution liability insurance.
Mr. Tolet,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-138. Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a renewal of the yard waste facility lease agreement with Barnes Nursery, Inc. of city-owned property located at 45 Chestnut Street in Elyria.
Mr. Tolet,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2023-139. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinance is second reading.
An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to overlay a B-G business general district over a A-L-1 light industrial district as set forth in chapter 1176 redevelopment overlay district. Codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, for real property located at the city of Reeser Point Crossings, Elyria, Ohio, and owned by DBR Commercial Realty LLC.
I declare this ordinance has had its second reading. Public hearing is scheduled for October 16th, 2023.
That's all.
Ordinance.
Second reading.
Ordinance is third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the law director, safety service director, building inspector and engineer on Tuesday, 10/10, beginning 6 P M. Items referred. Joint CD Finance requests the mayor, law director, finance director, safety service director and engineer on Tuesday, 10/10, immediately following the community development meeting. Finance requests the mayor, law director, finance director, safety service director and engineer on Tuesday, 10/10, immediately following the joint meeting. Utility Safety Environment requests the law director, safety service director and engineer on Wednesday, 10/11, beginning at 6 P M. All items referred. And strategic planner requests the mayor, safety service director, finance director, and law director on Monday, 10/16, immediately following council. All items referred.
Miscellaneous unfinished business.
Seeing none, Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. This meeting is adjourned.
I'm gonna stay after for a few minutes. I'd like to talk about guns out with the audience, if anyone wants.